This is a very local protest. The traffic thunders by RAF Scampton. People here have been campaigning for a year to stop the Home Office turning it into accommodation for 2,000 asylum seekers. A year in now, pretty permanent setup, isn't it?
Yes.
This is a sort of home. Sarah Carter and others take turns to stay here for days at a time. A permanent protest.
You've got a whole living area, beds at the back.
Yeah, so dining area, because we like to make it feel a little bit homely, because, I mean, like I say, the guys are away from home for a long time.
The locals, like Sarah, had to contend with another group turning up to hijack their cause. Outsiders, far-right nationalists.
The main group were sort of pretty far-right, and then there were people there that maybe weren't quite as aware of the situation that were supporting them.
Aside from just the sort of, like you say, the violence and all that, in terms of the image more generally, do you think it gets in the way if people think, well, actually protesting against this site here, because of those people, that's a far-right position rather than just a legitimate political position?
So we work really hard to keep a clean campaign. I get called far left, I get called far right, depending on who I'm having the conversation with.
Fights broke out and the police were called out regularly. Sarah says she and her husband were assaulted by men wearing balaclavas.
Down here is actually a separate camp, and this is the thing, when you have these sorts of protests, this sort of topic, you get different groups with different agendas.
The far right have gone now. Camps like these, a separate site with watchtowers looking over, are back in the hands of Gary, a retail warehouse worker currently out of employment.
I don't see how this place can really help, because it's not like they can get him here and then process him, because they're not... How many have they processed so far? They've lost, how many have they lost? It's just going to cause problems.
Our analysis of new figures from advocacy group Hope Not Hate, shared exclusively with Sky News, shows how protests like these are becoming a new battleground for the far right.
There's been this big surge in anti-migrant protests like this one over the last year, but that contains multitudes. It can be legitimate political protests. There's also fears that it can be hijacked by right-wing groups.
The demonstration in RAF Scampton is just one of many across the UK. There are 275 anti-migrant events in 2023. 159 of those were visits, where people try and gain access to hotels where migrants are being held. 116 were demonstrations, a 13-fold increase on the year before.
We're doing a social media report, and we've been told that the hotel is being used to house migrants.
The tactics seem to be shifting. Last year there was a drop in visits, like this one from Britain First, and a big increase in public demonstrations like these. This one organised by Patriotic Alternative, the far-right organisation responsible for most anti-migrant protests last year. Just because they organised it, though, doesn't mean everyone marching here is a member or even believes in their wider nationalist cause. The far right may also feel more confident organising public protests because their language, their symbols are becoming more mainstream. If this idea of invasion sounds familiar, well, you may have heard it somewhere else before.
The British people deserve to know which party is serious about stopping the invasion on our southern coast.
The language of the far right swilling around the web, now making its way to Westminster, according to political scientists.
I don't think politicians anymore are, if you like, insulated from the language and some of the behaviour of the far right. I think they pick it up on social media, and they're willing to use some of the words that those groups, tend to bandy about, quite easily.
The question is what all that means in an election year, with the Conservative Party facing pressure from further right. National questions. But RAF Scampton is a reminder that all politics, even on the far right, is local. Tom Cheshire, Sky News, Lincolnshire.